Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. I'm Jay Tanner, and today I'll be talking about the first episode of Season 5 of Netflix's She-Ra. Em couldn't be here today because she had a medical emergency that she's currently recovering from, but I want to thank you all for the well wishes. It really means a lot. And I'm also sorry that it took so long to get this video out. Things have been rough, but I'll do my best to update the channel as frequently as possible, so thank you for your patience. So with that being said, let's get into the video. Season 5 of Netflix's She-Ra premiered, and it wasn't exactly what we had been hoping for. Basically everything I was worried about happening happened, and it didn't answer most of our questions, and the ones it did answer didn't make any sense when you think about it, along with more retcons. So that's unfortunate, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Why don't we just focus on episode 1? The episode opens with Horde Prime's armada invading Etheria, and that's a lot of ships. Nice going, Glimmer. On the surface, the Princess Alliance is protecting civilians in the Whispering Woods. It seems like some time has passed, considering where the last episode left off. They've probably been keeping the Horde at bay for a few days at least. Adora is fighting with a staff now since she can't use her sword anymore, which makes sense since she was using a staff back when she was with the Horde in the first episode, but the Alliance manages to get the refugees to safety while they fight off the robots. I wonder what's going on with their kingdoms though. Remissa just got Selenius back. Has it fallen again? It would have been nice to see the initial invasion, instead of skipping over that and jumping to them trying to fight it off later, because it seems right now that Etheria has mostly fallen and the Whispering Woods is the final stronghold. It just seems like a waste of a good alien invasion plot. The characters are still cracking jokes though, so it doesn't seem like the stakes are that high, but maybe they're just trying to alleviate the tension? But it just kinda comes off as they're not taking it too seriously. Remissa grumbles about them not saving any bots for her, and then gets really excited when more show up. But Adora rushes off to fight more bots. She's pretty reckless in her attacks though. She's basically trying to compensate for the fact that she can't transform to She-Ra anymore. So she almost gets blasted in the face, and then gets stalled when she tries to transform to She-Ra, but she forgot she didn't have the sword anymore. So she gets thrown into a tree, and Remissa has to save her. She tries to remind her that she's not She-Ra anymore, but Adora doesn't want to hear it, and rushes off again. So she takes out another bot, but this time Horde Prime was watching, and this act puts Adora on his radar. The theme song has gotten some minor changes this season, and each episode updates, but only certain frames. For example, most of the theme song has Glimmer in her original outfit, except for the ending shot. So on the one hand, I like that they made some changes, but they're ultimately a bit minute. I think I would have preferred if they had just gone the anime route and made a new theme song in general, instead of just having a few changes here and there, but that's just my opinion. After the theme song, it shows Adora having visions of her past, like breaking the sword, and it culminates on what looks like some kind of spirit of She-Ra. She tries to reach out to it, but then she wakes up, so it was seemingly all just a dream, and she tries to shake it off as she gets dressed, but it's pretty obvious there's something else going on. On a side note, I really wish Adora would keep her hair down. The ponytail isn't necessarily bad, but the poof kinda throws it off. As she leaves the tent, we see that the camp is encased in a magical field. It would have really helped to see all this be set up instead of just throwing us into it. But as Adora is heading to touch base with Bow and Entrapta, she passes Seahawk and waves at him. Seahawk is polishing his sword, which is weird because it's supposed to be a laser sword, so I'm not sure what to make of it. Bow asks Adora if she got any sleep, but she changes the subject by asking about Mara's ship and if they can rescue Glimmer soon. Entrapta's really excited about the prospect of going into space, but explains it's going to be difficult to get Mara's 1,000-year-old ship to do that, and it's probably going to take them a lot of time that they don't have. So Adora is upset by this, but Entrapta explains there are too many variables in space, and that if anything goes wrong they could all die. Entrapta's still acting a bit like a mad scientist, going on about how great space is and they probably won't even find Glimmer anytime soon because of how big it is. But she picks up on the fact that Adora and Bow are upset, so she tries to reassure them about the situation, which I appreciated. Entrapta's not the best at picking up social cues, and last time she was pretty insensitive to Adora about the whole Heart of Etheria thing, so I appreciate she's making more of an effort even though it's hard for her. Adora then goes into the main tent, where King Micah and Shadow Weaver are arguing about the best course of action. It's pretty disappointed that they skipped over their reunion proper, and what about Bright Moon's reaction to their king returning after being presumed dead? What about the Princess Alliance's reaction? They just skipped over all this really important character interactions for no reason. Anyway, Shadow Weaver is upset about them abandoning Bright Moon, but Micah argues they couldn't defend from that position. Again, it would have been nice to actually see this happen instead of just being told about it. I really don't understand why they would skip over the initial invasion, but Shadow Weaver has the nerve to say that Glimmer would have gone along with her plan, which naturally upsets Micah Micah, and as if that wasn't bad enough, she's still insisting on using the Heart of Etheria. The others groan about her stubbornness, reminding her that they don't have She-Ra or Glimmer anyway, plus it almost killed them all the first time it was activated. Frosta also adds that they don't like her and don't want to work with her, but they probably should have brought that up when she started working with them instead of now. First of all, it's Shadow Weaver, and second of all, it's Shadow Weaver. Why did you guys let her on in the first place? But I digress. Then Perfuma asks for clarification on whether or not Shadow Weaver is still their prisoner, but Adora cuts her off, although I do think that issue should be addressed, especially since right now it seems like King Micah and Shadow Weaver are the main strategists, and that's just weird. But Adora says they have to learn more about Horde Prime, that way they can track down his ship and find Glimmer. Micah tells them about another spire that appeared nearby, where they'll probably be able to gather information. Mermista complains about everywhere getting invaded and how frustrating it is, so Adora volunteers to go, but Perfuma reminds her that she's not She-Ra anymore, so she shouldn't go alone, although I'd personally argue she shouldn't go alone to begin with, even if she were still She-Ra. So they all head out, but Micah stops Adora before they leave. He tells her that he's proud of her and he believes in her, even though she isn't She-Ra anymore, but she saved his life, and he knows she'll save Glimmer too. I liked this moment, it was nice. I really appreciate these smaller character moments. Meanwhile, Glimmer wakes up on Horde Prime's ship. She's locked in a cell, although it's pretty nice all things considered, not like the cells in the Fright Zone back on Etheria, but at least it's not just a spare bedroom, and it is a proper holding facility. It just happens to have a pretty nice bed in it. Glimmer checks out the door, but finds no way past the force field, so she tries to use her magic, but it doesn't work, so she resorts to calling out to whoever happens to be there. She doesn't get an answer, although Catra is lurking in the shadows. I guess Catra gets to roam the ship because she's a Horde member? She's still essentially a prisoner though. Back on Etheria, the Alliance is helping more refugees. Scorpia and Swiftwind are bonding. Swiftwind starts saying that he and Scorpia make a great team and this was a really good first mission, and Scorpia agrees. The thing is, it skipped over the actual mission part, so we didn't actually get to see the teamwork they were talking about, which makes this scene fall flat. Like, imagine that scene we just had with King Micah and Adora, but we didn't get to see her rescue him from the island. It wouldn't be as impactful. It's like they hit the fast forward button. So instead we just get them talking about how much they both love to sing. Great, I don't think we need anyone encouraging Swiftwind's antics. But I guess as long as they're getting the mission done, and it's off screen so we don't have to hear them singing, it's probably fine. A little girl traveling with the refugees accidentally drops her doll. Adora picks it up and sees it's a She-Ra doll, so she hands it back to the child, who's very grateful, but Adora's bummed about not being She-Ra anymore. Bo is scanning the woods and he notices there are 3 Horde clones coming at them. He and the others want to flee, but Adora just charges in, much to the others' shock. I know they improvise a lot, but now's really not the time. Though it's a shame that she never fought Hordak before as Adora or She-Ra. It could have given us an idea of what kind of threat she's up against, since there's probably thousands of Horde Prime clones, and they're all in much better shape than Hordak is. Plus it's weird that they never had the hero fight the main villain. On the ship, Horde Prime called Catra in to talk to her, but when she gets there, he's out of it. It turns out he was looking through Hordak's memories, and he's not happy with what he sees. He tells her that Hordak didn't have a lot of fondness for her at the end, so he questions what to do with her now. Catra claims that she's the only one who knows how to activate the Heart of Etheria and that he needs her. Hopefully he won't be able to tell from Hordak's memories that that's a lie, but he asks if she'll pledge her loyalty to him, putting a hand on her shoulder and squeezing it as a threat. So she agrees, although she doesn't look happy about it. We cut to Adora, who's having another vision. She sees the spirit walking away from her and she tries to catch up to it, but then she wakes up to Swiftwind in her face. It turns out Scorpia stung her so they could retreat, which Adora is not happy about, but I also can't really blame them for doing that. Basically, Adora is trying to compensate for losing She-Ra, but she also is the leader still in this situation, especially with Glimmer captured. If she really wants to prove herself, now is the time to step up and be a leader, instead of being so reckless, especially since Scorpia is threatening to sting her again if she needs to. Bo lectures her about being reckless, which is something he's done before. I know that she's under a lot of pressure, but I can't help but feel like she hasn't developed quite enough as a character, especially a main character. It is the final season after all, and she's still making the same mistakes she would make in season 1. He asks her what she was trying to do to begin with, and she says that she wanted to capture those clones so they could tell her where Glimmer is being held. Bo admits that's a good idea, but he suggests they work together to capture a clone instead of her taking them all on at once. The thing is, given Adora's background, shouldn't she know better? Didn't the Horde teach them military tactics like guerrilla warfare, or how to set traps? That way they could capture one without engaging with the clones directly. But but instead Adora lures one out. I'm surprised he didn't call for backup when he saw her. Instead he just charges at her, making the same mistake that she did. But they used teamwork to capture him, which was effective, so at least they finally accomplished their objective. It cuts back to the spaceship, where Glimmer is still stuck in her cell, and she's going a bit stir-crazy, pounding on the force field and insisting that they can't hold her forever. This time Catra does approach the cell, and she's pretty smug to Glimmer, but she tells her to save it, saying that even though Catra's on the other side of the force field, she's just as alone as she is. But Catra insists that the Horde is the Horde, even in space, and she'll just climb her way up the ranks the way she did on Etheria. Good to see that Catra hasn't changed. Anyway, Glimmer scoffs at this, reminding her of how they just saw Hordak get taken away, so how can she think she would come out on top? But it's Catra we're talking about. If she found a way to overthrow Horde Prime and take over the Horde proper, she totally would. Their conversation is interrupted by clones who want them to join Horde Prime for dinner tonight, so they lower the force field and insist they follow them. Back on Etheria, they're grilling the clone, and he surprisingly knows a lot. He says that Glimmer is on Horde Prime's flagship, far away from here, and then he babbles about how amazing Horde Prime is like he thinks he's Ebony Maw or something. They ask Scorpia if Hordak talked this much. He didn't, and she confirms that. But the clone also says that their forces are not safe, and even though they've abandoned Bright Moon and cloaked their camp, they're just delaying the inevitable. Then they see a flare from Micah calling for help, so they rush after it, while also abandoning the clone. Shouldn't they take him as a prisoner? But they rush to the camp and find it's been invaded, and the other princesses are fighting them off, although Entrapped is more interested in the tech than anything else, forcing Micah out to protect her. Shadow Weaver also steps in to save them from a bot, but Micah doesn't appreciate it, and rushes off with Entrapta, so Shadow Weaver mumbles a sarcastic "you're welcome." I'm not sure if this scene wants us to feel sorry for Shadow Weaver, because Micah has every reason to be upset with her. He doesn't have to thank her. This scene probably would have been more impactful if we actually got to see the conflict between Micah and Shadow Weaver unfold. Like maybe when we see her sitting on the throne, she had every intention of staying there, but maybe she does still have some kind of fondness for Micah given their history, so she starts to make more of an effort to reform instead of this just coming out of the blue. There could have been so much drama and interesting character conflict here, but they just skipped it, so it's a real missed opportunity. Scorpia leads them out of the camp, but Entrapta tries to stop again to look at the tech, so Micah has to carry her out. But then Adora rushes back. I guess she's trying to liberate the camp, but basically she's making the same mistake again. I guess she still hasn't learned her lesson. It then cuts to Glimmer and Catra having dinner with Horde Prime. They're served a jelly dish, but they're both really uncomfortable to be there. Horde Prime comes in but only addresses Glimmer instead of both of them, so she seems to be his main target. He tells her the jelly they're eating is a delicacy from a distant world that's much like Etheria, but it's extremely rare because that world doesn't exist anymore, so this is all a threat. Glimmer starts crying, and refuses when Horde Prime asks if she wants seconds. He then asks if she misses her homeworld, so he shows video feed of the bots attacking Etheria, which upsets Glimmer even more. At least he's an effective villain. She asks why he's doing this, and he says that every rebellion forms around a beacon of hope. So he pulls up Adora on screen. This makes Catra tense up and she scratches the table. Adora ends up getting surrounded by bots, and they're about to fire upon her. Yeah, maybe she shouldn't have rushed back in there. But then Glimmer starts pleading for them to stop, and explains that Adora is a major part of the Heart of Etheria weapon, so he wouldn't be able to use it without her. So Horde Prime relents and turns off the video feed. Then he tells them to enjoy the rest of their meal. So Glimmer continues to sob, and Catra is just sitting there being quiet the entire time. This is a pretty awkward scene, but in a good way. It shows how Horde Prime is able to control them, and is pretty effective as a villain. Probably more effective than Hordak has been this entire time. Back on the ground, Scorpia saves Adora. Bo picks Adora up off the ground, asking if she's okay, but she says no and is distraught that she can't handle it on her own, and that without Shiro she's not a hero anymore. Didn't we already do this though? But Bo explains that she's never been alone, and that they've got this together. I guess that message was so good they had to do it twice. Anyway, they charge into battle together. I'm not sure why the robots are still here though after Horde Prime called off the attack. Like, wouldn't they have retreated or something? But I guess it is what it is. So they do a few team attacks and manage to destroy all the robots, but their camp has been compromised, so Adora suggests they leave. Bo says that they're running out of places to hide, which gives Adora an idea, so she says to follow her. It cuts back to the ship again. Glimmer is sent back to her cell, and Catra approaches Horde Prime. She kisses up to him, saying he did a great job and how predictable the princesses are with their feelings. face. You can tell she's already thinking of a plan on how to climb through the ranks here, but Horde Prime isn't having any of it, and he calls her out, saying she's just as predictable as Glimmer is. Catra's caught off guard, but Prime explains that she had a reaction to Adora too, just like Glimmer, even if she doesn't want to admit it, but he's been monitoring her vitals, and he can tell she had a reaction. Catra disagrees, saying that Adora chose her path and she chose hers, but Horde Prime isn't going to be as easy to manipulate as Hordak was. He also calls out the fact that Catra doesn't seem necessary for the heart of Etheria, and says that her bargaining chip wasn't going to last. Realizing this isn't going to be as easy as it was on Etheria, she questions what he's going to do with her. He tells her that every part of his machine has value, including her, and then calls her little sister. So I don't think Catra really has a chance to manipulate him the way she planned, and I think she understands that now too. Back on Etheria, Adora is leading them through the Whispering Woods. She explains that she's been having visions of this place, and that they should be safe there. They reach a point where it seems like they can't go any farther, but it opens up for Adora, and inside they find a magical clearing. Apparently this part of the forest is connected to the magic source of Etheria, and it should keep them hidden from the Horde. But suddenly Adora keels over in pain. She's being plagued with visions, so they're getting stronger now, since before they only appeared when she was asleep, but they're so intense that she ends up being overwhelmed and passes out, so that's where the episode ends, on a cliffhanger. I thought this episode was an okay start to the season. The pacing was pretty fast though. It skipped over a few things I would have liked to see, especially when it comes to Etheria, but I thought the pacing when it came to Horde Prime's ship was pretty good. And Horde Prime is a pretty good villain. He's intimidating and threatening, and he knows the game that Catra's trying to play, so overall not bad, but could have been better. So that's my opinion. What do you guys think? Sorry again that this video was so late, but before I go I want to give a few shoutouts. First, I'd like to give a shout out to Caleb Nelson, who became a member. Thank you so much for the support. We also got some fan art. First, there's Real Green Machine on Instagram. This is a really sweet piece of art. I also really liked the Hater in Chief shirt. That made me laugh. In case you didn't know, there was some drama on Twitter. And then we got this piece from Jars Kabil, also on Instagram, of us hosting the show, and it's really cool. I showed both of these pieces to Em too, and she really appreciated them, so thanks for cheering us up. It means a lot. I also want to thank everybody for watching. I hope you're all doing well. If you enjoyed this video, you can leave a like and subscribe to our channel. Links to our GoFundMe and Buy Me Coffee will be down below if you're interested in supporting us and are financially able. Please don't feel pressured to. That's about it, so I'll see you all in the next video. Bye for now.